Hello and welcome to Words Carry Us, our ongoing series of live stream events featuring readings and interviews from Greenkill in Kingston, New York. Tonight, we're delighted to welcome to the Greenkill stage artist Richard J. Treitner, whose work has been featured in a show on the Greenkill walls for the month of January. I am Betty McDonald, writer, storyteller, and host of Words Carry Us. And I'll begin the evening by reading a few of my poems. I think they're poems, yeah. This is called In the Town of My Second Childhood. In the town of my second childhood, the famous restaurant became a bank. The bank, a gallery, the building that housed the free store gone, not just the free store, the whole building gone. After crossing the bridge, turn right into the driveway and around the curve and in front of the studio where I used to work, Goliath's foot in white hydra stone. 4 feet from heel to toe. 3 feet tall at the ankle, maybe 4. Malcolm Gladwell says the giant had a condition, some kind of ism, physically and mentally challenged. The house where my kids grew up recently upgraded, new siding and new foundation. The house had no foundation when we lived there. It sat on the ground, moldering. The foundation I provided wasn't so solid either. The creek meanders, rushes and roars, depending on rainfall and what locks they open upstream, changing little over time, except where the engineers recarved the bank across the road after Deirdre's house, hoisted by the flood, transformed into a boat and floated a full 200 feet until it hit the Bearsville Bridge and disintegrated. Doors and door frames broke apart. Walls and ceiling fell into the swirling water. No sign of books or beds or dishes anywhere. Only the kitchen sink surfaced on a bank way downstream. If only I'd stayed for that, but I was gone by then, afraid that I'd be stranded as the water flowed across the driveway, etching deep craters. Awash with rain, I carried our meditative dog in my arms through the rushing water. Her glossy black head nestled against my yellow slicker. She would have followed me on her own if I'd put her down, but I needed her close. I whispered encouragement into her silky ear, my tall rubber boots filled with water. The mud sucked one boot clear off. I stepped into the icy puddle to retrieve it. The next day, the water was completely gone and returned to its former contour, restrained once again between the banks of the stream. No trace of Deirdre's house. No foundation. No plumbing pipes, nothing, except a wrought iron railing next to a couple of cemented steps, and nothing. This is something I wrote before the election, with the end of October, and I was reacting to a friend who said she couldn't wait for the election to be over. And a few weeks later, she said, I can't wait for the year to be over. So this is what I wrote. I'm giving up waiting. I'm giving up waiting for this to be over because waiting is sapping my strength and because, let's face it, it will never be over. Once I get over the fright of it will never be over. I remind myself it's been going on for a long time. Forever, in fact. And will continue to go on even when the election is over, even if our candidate wins, even if there isn't a long, dragged-out fight, even if there is, the what could happen is endless and will supply us with more waiting for it to be over. Even when the pandemic is quelled, other fears will slip in, sustaining the level of anxiety. Outrage bombards me daily, unrelenting. When things change, the outrage takes another form. Beauty, grace, love remain. The blue of the sky, the embrace of a breeze, the touch of a beloved, a finished piece of work, the wind on water. It's not all grim. But I've stopped waiting for it to be over. I'm no longer burdened with the weight of waiting. And this is a short one I've read here before, but I like it. This is called, I'm lucky to live in the woods like Snow White, surrounded by animals, sans dwarves. So glad there are no dwarves. After this is over, or at least manageable, I'll invite you over to meet the fish. I've had a turned-off week. I was unable to write. I hardly tried. I got caught up binging a series on Netflix about two families in Halifax who were visited by one chaos after another. Now I think in a Yorkshire accent. Then I watched a TED Talk about avoiding procrastination. So now I want to turn to our guest, Richard Traitner. Why am I having trouble saying your name? Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Oh, Richard, you look so great in that mask.
Thank you. I made it for the show. It brings out the highlights in my long, silky hair.
It does indeed. There's no question about it. The air. So I'm very impressed by the work we have here on the walls, and I would like to know more about you. And you wrote that you grew up in New Jersey, and some of it was magical. And I wondered what experiences you had as a magical child.
Oh. Well, I wasn't quite like other children. I used to have visions a lot and see things before they happened and know when people were coming to the house before they came to the house.
You knew they were coming before they came.
Or who was on the phone all the time, things like that.
And did that creep out your parents?
Yes, and the kids at school as well.
How not to be popular.
So I grew up in the Pine Barrens mostly, well, when we didn't live in places like Jersey City. So the Pine Barrens is down in South Jersey near the seashore. And it's a very magical Pine Barrens forest left over from pre-glacial times. And thanks, David, for that tidbit. And one of the stranger things that happened to me growing up was, well, they thought I was autistic at first.
They thought you were autistic.
They thought I was autistic, and they left me back 1 year. But it turned out the teacher was abusive, so I didn't pay attention in her class because I hated her. And I was bored with the subject. And so she left me back to be spiteful. She used to lead the kids, and stabbing me with pencils and hitting me with books and things.
Oh, what an awful thing to do.
I didn't have a
Vile.
pleasant childhood in a lot of ways.
Ooh.
But out of that, during the summer, when I was on summer vacation, I went out to the woods one day. I felt called to go to this tall white spire of a tree over all the dark, short pine trees. And I went to it, and I remember getting to the tree, and there was nothing growing in a 30-foot circumference around the tree except moss, beautiful green moss, and everywhere else there were ferns and sticker bushes and everything. But around this tree, it was all perfectly manicured, as if it was a fairy circle or something, kept up by little sprites. But I touched the tree, and then the next thing I knew, it was 3 hours later, and my family and the neighbors were combing the forest looking for me.
They were looking for you. You had disappeared.
I had disappeared and lost 3 hours in the process.
So tell what happened in that 3 hours. Do you remember?
I don't remember a thing, but I know I woke up that summer shortly after that, and it was like the first time I'd woken up ever. And it was like someone else had stepped in, and the old child, which was dying, faded away. And suddenly they wanted to skip me to college-level courses and gifted and talented programs, which they did. And
so something
life
had
changed.
really happened to you there.
Yeah, it really happened, yeah.
That moved you out of being
Sounds crazy, but it happened.
I hear. It doesn't sound so crazy. So they moved you out of being retarded to being exceptional.
Yeah.
So how old were you at that point?
It's a good question.
Well, maybe not exactly, but were you a teenager?
Between 8 and 12, yeah.
Every bunch of years.
Or whatever age one is in third grade. I can't remember.
I don't know.
I lost a lot of memory one year when I died. So.
You feel like you died and came back to life.
Oh, no, I did die. Yeah.
You did die.
Well, for a few seconds, and then came back. Yeah.
And you were better for it.
And I was better for it, yeah.
So when did you come to the Catskills? Was that...
I moved up here in 2000 after I escaped New Jersey. For a long time, I played and showed all over Manhattan, and then...
So you lived in Manhattan for a while?
I lived next door in Jersey City in the Jersey City Port Authority, which led directly to New York City.
Right.
Within 10 minutes by train or bus.
And you were showing your work in the galleries there?
I was showing my work early on. From high school on, I was showing work professionally in galleries, yeah.
Wow. And then what brought you to the Catskills? It sounds like you were doing very well in New York.
Half my old coven moved up here, and also I had almost been murdered by someone.
Oh, my goodness.
I figured it was time to get out of Dodge.
I'd leave, yeah.
And so I followed them up here and loved it, loved the mountains. I felt a very strong calling since I was little to go live up in the mountains.
Right.
And I used to draw the mountains all the time and somehow knew I would wind up here.
So were you painting and drawing as a child, or did that come later? But,
oh, yeah, I was painting and drawing as long as I can remember.
right, and writing poetry.
And writing poetry and doing photography. Yeah,
I wonder if you'd like to share some poems with us.
yeah I have some here.
Okay.
Excuse me. This one is called Trouble Breathing. Your exhalations fell on masked faces. Your words on deaf ears fell at deaf's doorsteps. He has a Summerland home with your name on it, shoes with angel wing tips, a plot for your daisies to push up in. I lost a friend to COVID today, maybe another last week, maybe more. Your armed protestations tell of unmasked fears, race war baiting and conspiracy tears, crisis actors abounding. Reality unfurls and drops away like old curtains. Chaos strays the countryside. Infestations remain in spite of inoculations to the contrary, as the differing views of reality clash, leaving fresh scars across the countryside, and most of us are left dumbfounded, like deer in bright headlights, unable to avoid being hit by the irascible horde's cold onslaught. This one's called Vengeance. I am a curse. I come like a bird on the wing, in the sky like a dream, soaring on jest and myrrh, through the dust and the wind, in the storm, to the brood. You brood to kill your brother, your sister, earth mother and father, coming fast as a shrike, a heartbeat deaf dream, yet hyena laughing the whole time in a maddening pitch and roll, until the talons clutch firm what should be your heart, to twist and to shred it, until you lie dead, you lie dead, you lie dead. I am a promise that shall be kept, and you, cruel exploiter, are the vulture turned dessert for the cannibal in me.
Wow. So you found a home in the Catskills.
So I found a home in the Catskills.
And you love it here?
Mostly.
Mostly. What brought you to Kingston? How did you find Greenfield?
I was never a fan of cold, but I'm living by a ski resort on a mountainside. Right.
You get a different attitude, right?
Different altitude, different attitude, yes, all that.
Right.
But I love having my own home and garden here.
And are you a gardener?
I have plenty of friends, so yes, I love gardening very much.
Nice. I haven't been able to garden because I have deer, so I'm raising deer instead.
It's important to raise deer. We need more deer.
They were here first, I keep saying. So I don't even try to plant things because they just eat it.
Yeah.
And they eat the things that they don't usually eat.
I have 2 little dogs, and they just pee on the plants and kill them. They don't have to eat them. Horror.
Killing plants, right. So what was life like in the East Village? How was that scene for you?
That was a very exciting time. I was homeless a few times growing up in high school and college, but I always found somewhere to sleep when I was in the city, and had a lot of adventures. Was taken into both the poetry scenes, the pagan scene, and the art scene, East Village art scene. So I showed a lot around the city, as I said, which was very exciting to me.
The city's very exciting.
A kid fresh out of high school, and here I was getting all these big shows.
Yeah.
So it was exciting.
Well, you're very prolific. This work on the walls is very impressive.
I have enough to fill 3 more galleries at least.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I have no room in my house to walk, but it's a trade-off.
So you talked about being adopted into the Native American community.
Yes.
How was that for you?
Oh, that was very affirming. Excuse me. I became friends with Chief Two Bear, the late Chief Two Bear, and Chief Gordy, 2 different chiefs. Chief Gordy was Seneca, and Chief Two Bear was Cherokee. And I became one of his Chief Two Bear's spiritual warriors, a healer and medicine person. And so I had to prove myself to be accepted, and so I had to demonstrate different abilities. And then I was made a reverend in the Native church, a Native-run church, not the Native church or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
And what were your duties in the church? Did you...
Before that, I had been made a pagan high priest, so I'm a priest twice over.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you give sermons? Do you marry people? What do you do?
I can marry people. I can do house blessings, funerals, help people cross over, and on occasion, when I feel strong enough, I can sometimes do some healing work and tarot reading.
Right. That sounds very fulfilling. So you said early on you did some psychic work and then you stopped. You don't do it anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering why you stopped. And
I worked briefly with the New York Police Department on a serial murder case, and I caught the guy who tried to kill me.
really,
Yeah.
how'd you do that?
I had visions of how I would catch him several months later, and there would be police there when I caught him, and I would be able to take them right to where he was hiding on a train, and during rush hour with hundreds of trains, and right to the right car, and he would be there, and they'd take him away because I told them.
And you recognized him on the
And
train?
it happened exactly like I envisioned. And I saw him, he saw me, and was afraid and ran and hid on the train. And I caught police that were coming just through the turnstile and told them. And we went to the exact car he was hiding on. So,
I'm speechless.
yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I stopped doing it because it seemed to put me in the range of being a target.
Put
so
you
I
in
was
jeopardy.
almost killed up here as well.
Wow.
So I had 2 murder attempts on my life.
Really?
Both were stalkers who wanted me but couldn't quite admit it. So So when people mention stalkers, I tell them take it very seriously, because stalkers are not something to be messed with.
Right. Wow. That's scary. Are they still looking for you?
Hopefully not. But I just don't do that work anymore. It's too draining, and I've changed my focus. I don't really do the psychic stuff anymore. So I don't need the drama.
Right, right. And I read that you got a McDowell Art Colony Fellowship.
Oh, yes.
And
Right out of high school, and the Gift and Talent program I went to, I was chosen to go to the prestigious McDowell Colony in New Hampshire and given a fellowship. So for a whole summer, at least 5 weeks of it, I had my own studio as well as a room in the main house, and they would bring lunches out in a basket so you wouldn't have to stop working for meals.
wow.
And it was beautiful. They gave me this huge Moorish kind of building.
Yes, yes.
All to myself. And, I grew up pretty poor, so to be sort of given this luxury summer
And get
where
your
I was
lunch
on
in
my
a
own and away
basket.
from stress of being
Yeah.
with my family and stuff.
And did that change you to
It
have
was-
that
It
experience?
was amazing, yeah. It
Yeah.
really freed up my artistic juices.
Yes,
So,
because you spent a whole summer without worrying about things, right?
right. It was beautiful. And the nature was so gorgeous up there and
Yes,
everywhere.
yeah.
It was a very beautiful campus that they had.
So now you live in the mountains.
And now I live in the mountains because I wanted to live somewhere with nature, and I just happened to find a way to do it with no money and no other options, and I wound up where I needed to be and wanted to be.
It sounds like you keep finding the right place to be.
Yeah, luckily, and I keep going and coming back, and nothing's stop me yet. So I keep.
How did you find Greenkill?
How did I find Greenkill? I think I came for a poetry night to read at the open poetry night, and then, huh? Itsy Bitsy.
There's a little painting show.
Oh, I was in that. Oh, okay. I was in a little painting show here called Itsy Bitsy. And then I came to an open poetry night, and we talked about, maybe doing a show, and it's been fabulous. So this is my second solo show here. So I'm very happy and proud of that. And again, thanks to David. It's been wonderful. So.
This is quite a show, and I want to remind people that there is a link on the Greenkill site on Facebook that you can link to that shows your work. You did that video with David.
Or if you go to greenkill.org, is that it?
greenkillsubstack.com.
Oh, okay. .com.
greenkillsubstack.com. And there's a video of you're talking about your work. It's very impressive and
Right,
showing
and
your
they
work.
also show all the artwork.
Yes. Don't show enough of it, but you show a lot of it. It's really good.
So David did a wonderful job documenting the whole show.
Yes, yes. He certainly did.
So all my friends and fans can see the work even if they couldn't make it to the show. So.
Yes, yes, and they can still see it. And there is a closing party in 2 days on the 29th. Everyone's invited. Greenkill is very careful with taking temperatures and making sure that people are distanced and wearing masks. And there's this particularly good air filter in here. So people are invited to a really nice party, a closing party. That's, oh.
A closing optional party.
A closing option.
There'll be a performance of my poetry. I'll pick out some poetry and be more rehearsed than I was tonight.
Okay, so you're going to read poetry as well.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like quite an evening. That sounds great. I'm wondering, let's see, was there a person or an event that focused you on being an artist, or did it just, you always had that focus?
Well, I always had the desire and the interest in art. But I have to say the anti-hero who focused me was my dad, who was very critical and an alcoholic growing up. So to escape his abuse and the abuse of the kids at school, who were merciless,
Kids are, yes.
I started escaping in artwork. And so I draw my own worlds and populate them.
So you were lucky you didn't have to be with those nasty kids.
Right, yeah.
And did you have a crush when you were a child? Were you in love with somebody that was unattainable?
Yes, Aquaman, the cartoon figure.
Oh, me too.
And young Robert Wagner, pre
Right.
whatever happened on the boat.
Yes, yes.
I like Diver Dan.
Diver Dan. Who was Diver Dan?
Oh, God.
And young Captain Kirk. I remember having my first erotic dream when I was like 5, and it was Captain Kirk on a pirate ship with his shirt off, as he often did on his show, and this bowling ball, cannonball was being rolled across his abdomen. I don't know why I found that exciting as a 5-year-old.
There's no telling.
But I think it set a theme and set the bar for the rest of my life in development.
So I'm wondering, what are you secretly bad at?
What am I secretly bad at?
Yes.
Oh, I'm much worse at singing than I used to be and want to be.
You would like to be a better singer?
I would like to be a better singer. I'm bad at business or making a living. So.
Right. You know, they need to teach artists how to take care of that when they're in school, I think.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an encounter with a fan of your work that was amusing or interesting?
An interesting encounter with a fan?
Yeah. Or scary?
Yes, I had one fan who came up to me during a show, and she hit me in the face because she felt I wasn't applying myself enough.
That would help.
She loved my work, but she wanted me to do more, so she hit me in the face.
And how is that helpful to you?
It was not helpful. I got to tell her if she's listening, not helpful.
Now, don't do that, right? And if you had power, how would you change the world?
How would I change the world? I would take all of the fascist dictators out of power and make it a much more peaceful world.
Peace.
For one thing.
It's what we all want, is peace, right?
Yeah, I think we have too many people leading with ego instead of with empathy.
Yes.
And greed instead of, some more altruistic.
And there's so many of us who want that.
And there are, and it's why don't we get it?
Yeah, why don't we? If you could talk to an animal, what animal would you talk to?
Well, I talk to my dogs every day. They're fine with it.
And they, I get it.
But I'd love to talk with some dolphins, go swimming with the dolphins.
Have you done that?
I haven't, but I've always wanted to.
It sounds like a really wonderful thing to do. Yes, yeah. Is there something you believed when you were a child and now you've found out that it wasn't true? Something you banked on? If there wasn't, it's okay. It's just a question.
That everyone had the potential to be good.
And you
I don't agree with that
You
anymore.
don't think so?
Some people are just bad apples.
It's true. I think that's true. But I still have hope.
I still have hopes.
Yes. So I'm wondering if you'd like to read one more poem before we close.
Sure. How about, I read this during the interview, but I could read it again. Glitter Bomb. Oh, no, let me read this one. Conspiracy Theory.
Okay.
The division expanded for decades upon decades, the space between multiplied exponential hatred and resentment written in longhand, etched in shorthand onto walls, grew while peace floundered, fell apart, even as whole lives were sold for comfort, and the darkness reveled in the luxury underneath rocks and stones, in every crack and crevasse, in every down soul and dampened spirit, in every household's lost moments, somewhere after every failure, and in the shadow of every kicked while they're down event, until it became the dominant force, the sustained note that everyone sang out boldly, no matter how wrong or outlandish it just so happened to be.
Nice. Thank you. So have you anything to add? Did I miss anything that you would like to tell people who are tuned in?
The rumors of my impending pregnancy are not true.
They're not true.
I'm not having triplets.
I'm taking back the gifts.
I'm just having one single egg fertilized by the robot overlords.
Oh, good. What do you expect to get from that?
A can opener that works. And sasses me back when I talk to it.
Yes, absolutely. So this has been Words Carry Us from Greenkill in Kingston, New York. We've had the pleasure of speaking with Richard J. Tregner, whose wonderful work is still on the walls and is still here for viewing for 2 more days. And on Friday, the 29th, there'll be a closing party. You're invited to come. We're very careful here about keeping distance, wearing masks, and being safe. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Richard's got his mask on. That's how I met Richard, and I liked him right away because he had that mask on. And I want to thank Greenkill. I want to thank David Schell, who makes things happen here, and invite you all to come and see Richard's show, to follow our live stream productions, and to go online to the Greenkill site and find the link for that shows Richard's work. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.
And thank you, Barbara, and thank you, David.
It's Betty.
What'd you say, spaghetti?
My name is Betty.